Good morning. Today is Friday, November 16th. I'm very happy to have you in class again, and I'm looking forward to today's lesson. Very quick supply check. Today you need a handout that looks like this. It says at the top, main idea and the Watsons Go to Birmingham. You need something to write with, and then you need your copy of the Watsons Go to Birmingham. Go ahead and pause. Make sure you have all those supplies. If you're missing this handout, they can be found at the front of the classroom, but I would prefer if you went over to the orange pockets to pick this up. You may also choose to get a clipboard to help you have a hard surface to write on today. If you are ready to move on, the first thing that we're going to start with is just by putting our names on our papers. Go ahead and do that. As I said, today is November 16th. It's still 2012, and then we're going to put either period 5 or period 6, depending on what your period is. Let's take a look at the objective. I will identify the main idea of a text at least 2 out of 3 times. So I've heard that phrase main idea before. A text is something that I read, identify is just to figure it out, and then 2 out of 3 times I know there are going to be 3 questions and I need to get at least 2 of them correct. I could also get 3. Based on the objective for today, rate your current level of understanding with regards to the objective. This one's something that we've seen before, so I might actually see some of you still rate this. I've never seen these concepts. Hopefully that's not very many people, but it's okay. You might rate it a 2. You're not confident yet. You might rate it a 3. You think you can already complete this objective. You may rate it a 4. You're ready to teach it to someone else. Go ahead right now and rate this. I'm going to rate myself a 2. Okay. If you'd like, you can change this rating after we do the direct instruction. Number 2, use editing marks to revise the following sentence, then write the corrected sentence on the lines below. Here's our sentence. I'm so happy it's Friday. Go ahead right now and pause. See if you can make the corrections yourself. Okay, do you think you have all the corrections? Let's take a look. Every sentence needs to start out with a capital. That one's easy, so I'm going to do my triple underline. I'm is a contraction, so we add a contraction mark. We can write so when we're texting, but when we're writing in a class, we need to spell this correctly. So I'm going to circle the code for spelling. And the actual spelling of this is just S-O. Happy, it's is not used correctly here. We want the contraction. It is Friday. Friday is a proper noun, so it needs to be capitalized. And then we need in punctuation here. Since this is a sentence expressing excitement, we're going to add an exclamation point. Right now you need to write the sentence with its corrections on these lines below. I will not give you full credit if you haven't done this. Moving on, the third part of our do now, since it is Friday, we're going to write a power paragraph responding to the following question. What is the best type of weather? What do you think the best type of weather is? I'm going to set up a frame for you, and as I do so, pause whenever you'd like to fill it in. So we're going to start with our topic sentence, our P1. The best type of weather is blank. Okay, so maybe it's rain, maybe it's sunshine, maybe it's fog, maybe it's slightly overcast. What do you think the best type of weather is? Could be snow. Go ahead and write your idea. Now we need to think of our 3 P2s, why this is the best type of weather. So I'm going to start with this is because, okay, and then that's where we're going to write our first P2. So why? Then we need to do a P3. So for example, okay, and you're going to write a P3, so you're going to give me an example of this P2. Okay, how are we doing on our format? We've got a P1, P2, P3. Now I need another P2. So I'm going to start with also, here's my next P2. Okay, so what's another reason that's the best type of weather? And then we're going to transition with another for example. We're going to use the same transitions today, but eventually we'll start using some more varied transitions. Okay, so we have our P2 and our P3. Okay. And then we need one more P2, so we're going to say finally, comma, and in our P2. And again, for example, and that's our P3. Okay. So P1, P2, P3, P2, P3, P2, P3, and we need a P4. So we're just going to say these are the reasons blank is the best weather. Okay. Now some of you have been doing a really great job with this. Some of you have been leaving your paper looking exactly like how mine is now. That's not the point of this assignment. You're not just copying what I have. I need you actually to write your power paragraph. So these blanks should all be filled in before you move to the next section. Those of you who have been doing a really good job with this, I'm really impressed and I'm very proud of you. I'd like for everybody to get to this point too. So this is the frame for our paragraph. It's your job to complete this frame with your responses. Once you're done with that, you can move on to the next section. But for you to be able to work on this right now, go ahead and pause with this screen up and complete your paragraph. All right, now we're moving on to direct instruction. Today, as we read in the objective, we're talking about main ideas and details. We've seen this before in our Read 180 classes and also while we were working with Maniac McGee. Let's look at this. I like to think sometimes of the main idea and supporting details as being like a tree, right? Our main idea is the trunk. It's like the root of everything, and it's the biggest part of the tree. And then the supporting details are all the pieces that go into the trunk. So these branches aren't coming out of another trunk. They have to come out of this main idea. They have to be related to this specific idea. It's also the biggest idea. This tiny branch couldn't support this. It's not going to happen. So the main idea is the biggest, most important idea, and all of the supporting ideas come out of it. They're all related to it. So let's fill out our labels for our notes. So the trunk we just talked about is the main idea. And the definition is the most important piece of information. Or you could say the most important part of the story. Okay? Because the most important piece of information could be confused with just being a detail, but we want the biggest idea. I'm going to add that. Okay, so the biggest. Okay. And then our branches are the supporting details. Our supporting details are evidence, that was one of our academic terms this week, that supports the main idea. Okay? Make sure that you have these notes. You can pause if you need to. And then we're going to reflect. We're going to go back and change our initial rating for our objective. So right now, I might decide, okay, I don't think I'm actually a 2. I think I'm actually a 3. I already kind of know main idea and detail. It's up to you. You might decide to keep yours. You may decide to lower yours. But go and double check what you rated your objective. When you're ready to move on, we'll start the guided practice. Now we have the practice. It asks us to read the following excerpt from Holes. Here we go. Follow along with your finger or a card as I read out loud. He didn't have any friends at home. He was overweight, and the kids at his middle school often teased him about his size. Even his teachers sometimes made cruel comments without realizing it. On his last day of school, his math teacher, Mrs. Bell, taught ratios. As an example, she chose the heaviest kid in the class and the lightest kid in the class, and he had them weigh themselves. Stanley weighed 3 times as much as the other boy. Mrs. Bell wrote the ratio on the board, 3-to-1, unaware of how much embarrassment she had caused both of them. The first question is, what is the main idea in the passage above? How do you know? Let's think about this. What could be the most important point in this passage? So thinking about it, I realized that this character did not have very many friends at school, and he was teased about his size. So let me think if I can get that into a smaller trunk. So I would say, all right, Stanley was teased about his weight. Okay, and that's my main idea. I know this is the main idea because all of the details support this. My next question is about those details. So what are some of the supporting details? How do you know? So let me think. His teachers made cruel comments. And let's see. Here it says the kids and the kids teased him about his size. I'm going to say these are both examples of how he was teased. Okay, and just to back this up, I'm going to circle my main idea and underline the details, and you should do the same. So I would say, where could I say? I don't think that the real example is the main idea is in here, but I can underline the details. So the kids at his middle school often teased him about his size. His teachers sometimes made cruel comments without realizing it. Okay, so those are some examples of how he was teased. Make sure that you have all of the guided practice, and then go ahead and re-rate yourself. What is your current understanding of today's objective? So if I need reminders about what these numbers are, I can go back to the first page, but I'm going to re-rate myself. Now we've seen the concepts before. Are you able to do the objective? Or you still need some more support? Or do you think you're ready to teach this to someone? This is getting harder than when we've seen main idea in detail before. So go ahead and rate yourself. How are you feeling about this?